Let's see. Let me fucking name the channel. I know it says an error has fucking occurred, but yeah, yeah, fuck it. Okay, chill. What booby trapping goes horribly wrong. No, watch that. Boobies, like boobies, like traps, but not ones that trap you.
Today we're going to be talking all about booby traps. Everything from a guy
You know. I can't believe we got a donation. Oh yeah, dude, that's crazy, dude. Damn, right when I need it the most.
creating an Indiana Jones-like rolling boulder trap to crush trespassers, all the way to a guy almost blowing off his own arm with the shotgun trap that he set while feeding squirrels.
I have a tripwire, and I opened up the door, and the tripwire went off and blew my arm off.
There are some truly insane and paranoid people out there, and today I invite you all to watch your step as we explore the bizarre world of booby-trapped homes and properties.
Oh, nice.
Hey buddy, you got a letter in the mail. It's from the county courthouse. You lost the case, and as a result, you're gonna lose the house. But you're not the kind of guy to just roll over and give up what's rightfully yours, damn it. If they want the house, they're gonna have to come and take it. Man sets up explosive wheelchair and rolling boulder traps to stop federal agents. Meet Gregory Lee Rodvelt. In 2014, this man, who bears striking resemblance to a high school lunch lady, I have to say,
Yeah.
acquired a piece of rural property located on Dream Hill Drive in Williams, Oregon, and he would make this his homestead. And by homestead, I mean glorified junkyard. But it was his junkyard, damn it. The man got a slice of the American dream.
Botrix has
For a
successfully
bit there,
joined the
old
channel.
Greg was living the dream, but his elderly mother would come along and ruin everything for him. Come on, Mom. 2 years after acquiring the lot, Rodvelt got involved in a civil lawsuit wherein he was accused of committing elder abuse against his 90-year-old mother. From what I'm able to ascertain, it had to do with claims of financial exploitation, which could have been how he got the Dream Hill plot in the first place. Turns out there was merit to the mother's claims, and a state court in Oregon sided with the lady, granting her a $2.1 million judgment. That money would of course be coming from her man-child, butch, lesbian-looking son, Gregory. The court later ordered Gregory's Dream Hill property to be sold, so he could pay the money that he owed towards his mom. But as you might expect, Mr. Rodvelt, in fact, kept living there for a good while and would commit more illegalities in the coming months and years instead of immediately making efforts to pay what was owed. In the time following the civil case, the 67-year-old elder assailant had multiple run-ins with the law. There were a few unspecified domestic violence charges levied his way, and in 2017, he was in a standoff with police several states over in Arizona. That situation ended up with him getting arrested and charged with unlawful possession of explosives. Why did he have explosives? I'm sure it was for the annual Dream Hill 4th of July display, right? Now, I know you guys are wondering, wait, doesn't this guy owe the court his Dream Hill house? How had that not been taken care of if he's getting arrested multiple times by police? Nobody brought this up? Yeah, it's a good question to ask, so just follow me for a second. So after being arrested for the explosives thing, the court brought this up. Like, yo, wait a second, bro. Don't you still owe us a house? Can we get that? Gregory was put on notice about the domicile, and a legal receiver was finally assigned to take control of it and, sell it. Things were starting to move along with this house liquidation, but considering it still had tons of shit and junk strewn about, well, it wouldn't be the easiest sell. So with this in mind, in August of 2018, Rodvelt was actually let out of jail for 2 weeks on his own recognizance so that he could tie up loose ends pertaining to the property before the receiver takeover. What could possibly go wrong? After being let out of jail, Gregory went to the old Dream Hill property and began cleaning windows, mopping floors, and repairing drywall. Which is a euphemism for he actually just started setting intricate booby traps intended to maim or kill anyone who dared to try to enter the property and make attempts to sell it. And then he left and went back to Arizona. The result of this lunatic's malicious machinations would become apparent to federal law enforcement agents, who on September 17, 2018, at the request of the legal receiver, came to claim and inspect the Dream Hill property. I'll be heavily sourcing a report from KGW News out of Portland, Oregon for this segment, which is essentially a harrowing walkthrough of the Dream Hill property and an exploration of the traps that this maniac set. When court-requested federal law enforcement agents arrived at the property, they were immediately met with ominous signs warning those who may enter. Not only were there your typical trespassing signs, you also had your totally normal and not out of the ordinary warning property is protected by improvised munitions signs. Probably nothing to worry about, right? As agents moved deeper into the driveway, it would become almost immediately apparent that they were in for something truly memorable. They spotted a number of spike strips left by Rodvelt on the gravel trail, the guy obviously intending to pop the tires or puncture the foot of anyone who tried traversing in here. Moving these hazards aside and making their way deeper into the lot, they arrived at the gate of Rodvelt's front yard. The gate entrance was blocked by a parallel parked minivan, which upon inspection was found to have had a steel animal trap set to go off if someone tried lifting up the hood of the vehicle. I think the idea here by Rodvelt was that if somebody wanted to move the van, they'd have to get under the hood and manually change the gear of this thing to neutral. Well, if you did try to open the hood, bye-bye to your fingers when you reach up there and try to jiggle the hood latch. The next trap discovered by agents as they slinked around the property was bafflingly enough this massive hot tub, which was set up to roll down a slope and crush anybody who tripped it by opening the property gate. Yes, this fent addict looking junkyard owner had his own Indiana Jones Disneyland experience in his front yard. The feds opted to bypass this ride and finally made their way to the front door of the house. According to the KGW News report, FBI bomb technicians detonated an explosive charge to breach the locked front entrance. As they entered, one of the bomb techs bumped into this wheelchair seen in the photo on screen, and moments later, a blast took out the agent. He was shot in the leg by one of those improvised munitions the signs from earlier warned about. Rodvelt might be a deranged psycho, but at least he's a man of his word. You're seeing the agent's bloodied pants on screen right now, and don't worry, he survived. Contrary to what you might initially think, this trap wasn't as simple as a fishing line connected to a shotgun trigger or something like that. It used a fishing line attached to the wheel of the wheelchair, which when moved would set off a connected mousetrap firing pin device that would then discharge a shotgun shell. So yes, the agent essentially got shot in the leg by a fucking Rube Goldberg machine. Here's a demonstration of a similar device. Again, shout out to KGW News for this clip. The federal agents would complete their sweep and painstakingly disarmed the trap so that the receiver could get the place sold in the future. But considering the fact it was trapped in the first place and an FBI agent had been shot in the fucking leg, well, you can bet the law was coming after Rodvelt big time now. Gregory was later found and promptly visited by police in the rather fittingly named town of Surprise, Arizona. He was mucking about outside of an Albertsons grocery store when they stopped him. When taken in for questioning, Rodvelt admitted to setting up the traps, including the hot tub one. even going as far as saying that he took the Indiana Jones movies as inspiration for it. A regular Imagineer, isn't he? This wannabe indie nutcase was arrested the next day and a proper search warrant was executed on his Dream Hill property. Several years later, on June 2nd, 2023, the 71-year-old booby-trapped terrorist and Gregory Lee Rodvelt would be tried and found guilty of assaulting a federal officer and discharging a firearm during and in relation to a crime of violence. On December 6th of that same year, he was sentenced to serve 150 months in federal prison and 3 years supervised release. That's about 12 and a half years in the slammer. In February of 2025, Rodvelt would file an appeal, but it would be denied. The booby trapper has now found himself trapped behind bars, and I'd say it's well deserved. I mean, keep in mind, he lost his house as a result of committing elder abuse, first off. The guy set the booby traps knowing that law enforcement would probably be coming, and these traps weren't simply for home defense, they were to harm anybody trying to claim the property that he lost in court. That's like an added level of premeditation and malice. And I mean, come on, the hot tub Indiana Jones boulder trap, this guy was having too much fun. Lock him up and throw away the keys. Lock him up.
Oh, man.
There I was, at the doorstep delivering the customers food, and out of nowhere, I was assaulted. Pushed to the ground like a rag doll because their chicken tenders were cold. My back's blown. Conspiracy theorist gets arrested after a booby trap disaster. Those door-to-door salesmen have a lot of nerve knocking around the neighborhood at every odd hour of the day, uninvited. I know you're sick of them. Now, if you ask me, I think it's a government ploy to spy on you. Those aren't salesmen, they're undercover agents, and they've seen your online posts. They know you're getting too close to the truth and are trying to take you out. Why not take them out first? A lot of booby trap enthusiasts could be described as paranoid, and the woman we're about to talk about and her partner certainly fit this description.
I am up against the Clinton Foundation network in that town. Do you think I trust Yamhill County? He knows I'm in danger.
This clip is not sped up. Rather, it's simply the insane ramblings of Tracy Joe Remington of Douglas County, Colorado. Tracy Joe is, or was, a somewhat notable figure among QAnon conspiracy theorists around the year 2018. Becoming a bizarro micro-influencer, all thanks to a rather curious claim that she made publicly against her ex-husband. Tracy would make many public claims within QAnon circles, stating that her ex-husband had ties to the Clinton family, and more specifically, she claimed that this individual created child porn for the Clintons. The works that substantiated her claims are being shown on screen right now. While on the topic of her ex-husband, Tracy Joe was in fact arrested back in 2008 for allegedly shooting a gun at this person, an offense that got her incarcerated for close to 2 years. Tracy really hated her ex, but I'd say she hated the Clintons even more. Almost all of her online activity was dedicated to what she described as exposing them. And I'd be here for literal hours if I read off all of her commentary regarding them. The Clinton Foundation is the largest child sex trafficking operation in the entire world. It's not fun to have the Illuminati come after you. It's not fun to have these people. They're real, they're evil, they're satanic. And my personal favorite, McDonald's is connected to the Clintons. They chop up the bodies and put them into the sausages and hamburgers. People are being cannibalized. Look it up.
They chop up the bodies and put them into the sausage and hamburgers. People are being cannibalized. Look it up.
So as you can see, old Tracy Joe here was a little bit wacky in the head. Paranoid, obsessive, and in her mind, the #1 op of the Clinton family. There were dark, pedophile, cannibal operatives closing in on her, trying to stop the truth from getting out. At least that's what Homegirl thought. Time for a little bit of shared psychosis. In the depths of her Clinton paranoia, Tracy Joe linked up with a 61-year-old man named Brian Scott Hill. From what I can gather, Brian was also a believer in some of the conspiracy theories that Tracy subscribed to, and shared in the belief that Tracy, because of her online postings, was under surveillance by an army of deep state pedophiles sanctioned by Bubba and Crooked Hillary. Like, I don't really know for a fact if Brian was in that deep, but you gotta imagine he at least is somewhat on the same page if he's living with the chick. So they did what any ostensibly paranoid schizophrenic would do. booby-trapped their property to stop the cannibal pedophiles from stopping them first. Brian allegedly did most, if not all, of the trap-setting work, rigging mechanical hazards all along the home's front entrance, the back door, and parts of the yard. With these tools of justice primed and ready, they patiently waited for New World Order operatives to come. But little did they know, something even worse was headed their way. A door-to-door salesman. That was a joke. This guy actually gets pretty messed up. On March 9th, 2023, 25-year-old door-to-door house painting services salesman Dylan Martin approached Tracy and Brian's residence at the 9200 block of Ashburn Court. As the unsuspecting salesman passed the property's threshold, he set off a tripwire left by one of the wacky residents. In an instant, Dylan was subjected to a loud explosion, coupled with a blinding flash of white light, leaving the paint peddler concussed. He felt a surging pain in his ear and his vision went completely blurry. It's almost as if he had been flashbanged. Dylan's salesman colleague, a man named Christopher Howard, was nearby and heard the boom. Chris rushed over to investigate, and just as they had made it past the property threshold, the home's garage door opened, and Brian reportedly yelled out, "No trespassing!" It's literally like it's in a cartoon, dude. Christopher and Dylan got the hell out of there, and the affected salesman was taken to the hospital. And yeah, you can bet that they reported this crackhead-ass incident to the police. Thankfully, Dylan did not suffer any life-threatening or permanent injuries that I'm aware of. But what was he actually hit with? And what would happen to the paranoid freaks who allegedly set the traps? On March 15th, 2023, deputies executed a search warrant on Tracy and Brian's booby-trapped residence. When searching the outside of it, they found what they believed had injured the paint services salesman on the front doorsteps. It was a trap that consisted of a tripwire attached to a firing pin mechanism that discharged what looked to be a shotgun shell filled with explosive powder. Essentially, a blank round blew up in Dylan's face. Police came across a similar device on the steps at the back of the house. Tracy and Brian, it seemed that they were prepared for a two-pronged attack, it seems. You know, maybe Bubba comes in from behind and Hillary takes the front route. Officers also discovered a booby trap in the backyard that's been described as a loaded canister filled with pepper spray that, when triggered, would discharge in the face of a victim. Tracy Jo Remington and her partner were subsequently confronted about the traps and arrested. Tracy wouldn't receive formal charges for setting any booby traps, though she did reportedly at one point face misdemeanor charges for obstructing an officer and failure to leave premises. Brian was charged for the booby traps, though, as it appears he was the one behind them. Brian subsequently failed to appear in court, and I can't find any information on if they ever got him to show up. Tracy's fate seems something of a mystery as well. Maybe the Clintons actually did end up doing them in. On September 30th, 2024, the affected door-to-door salesman Dylan Martin would file a lawsuit against both Brian Hill and Tracy Jo Remington for personal injury in the District Court of Douglas County. I hope Dylan gets some compensation, but I'm doubtful given how flighty these two seem to be. Whatever the case, I think this booby trap situation perfectly showcases why they're illegal. And of course, that's in regard to the indiscriminate nature of them. Those traps were meant for New World Order operatives, but they went off and injured a totally innocent door-to-door salesman. A gun don't fire unless you pull the trigger, but a booby trap goes off no matter who or what passes it. There's no judgment, just violence for the sake of violence. And that's downright dangerous, not to mention illegal. Moving on. Those old skeletons are out of the closet. The neighborhood learned about your darkest secret. It's only a matter of time before police pigs come to play in the mud, but you're not worried in the slightest. You've known this day was coming for years. The traps are set and the new graves have been dug. Let the games begin. Getting hit by your own trap. So having a house full of booby traps might kill or maim an unwanted intruder. But remember, they are indiscriminate, thoughtless. Anybody can get it. Even you, the trap setter. I mean, after all, the trap setter spends more time around the traps than anyone else. All it takes is one haphazard trip to the fridge for another beer and, well, you've lost an arm to a shotgun blast from a jerry-rigged fishing line attached to a spring lock device.
Was that the bite of 87?
Self-inflicted booby trap disasters happen more than you think. Take Edwin Smith's case, for example, a 69-year-old man from Shelby, North Carolina, who on October 15th, 2018, at around 11:30 a.m., had gone outside to feed some squirrels in his
We got a Woodbridge. It's north of Toronto. Light Oak. Oh, it's in Cleveland. Circle M, Satan Park. Oh, it's Safari Park. Yeah, Safari, not Satan Park.
at around 11:30 a.m. had gone outside to feed some squirrels in his backyard. As he was going outside, bam! Edwin was hit by his own booby-trapped shotgun. Apparently, sometime before this incident, Edwin had winched up a shotgun to hang by his back door. He wired and rigged the thing to go off on anybody trying to come in through that entrance. Now, I'm not exactly sure if this was a situation where he had just recently set it up and wasn't in the habit of remembering where it was, or if it was just like a door that he rarely used and that's why he forgot about it. But regardless, he had been shot and was hurting bad. Severely wounded, Edwin managed to dial 911. And here's some highlights from that call.
Cleveland County 911. Send an ambulance over to 1. I just blew my arm off. Please hurry, I'm gonna die. Okay, well, how did this happen, sir? I have a tripwire, and I opened up the door, and with the tripwire went off and blew my arm off. I'm gonna die. I'm in the driveway. I'm gonna die. Just tell everybody I love them, okay? Sir, we got help on the way. Is there anything you can control the bleeding with? No, I'm out here in the driveway. My arm's blowed off. Yeah. I'm shot. Oh, shit. Ambulance on this way? Yeah. Damn, what did you shoot yourself? Sitting in your chair? Nah, the fucking gun over there with the squirrels. This just sucks. Fucking squirrels did me in, buddy. You sure the ambulance is on this way? Yeah. The guy's on the phone. You there? Yes, sir. We need you here, buddy. He shot his arm off. I know that, sir. They're coming as fast as they can get there. The shotgun went off? Yeah, I've just seen a squirrel. I damn your own gun shot you. Yep. Are you sure you want me to get in the car? You're going to lose your arm, Ed. I know it.
A responding deputy was dispatched to the residence who, upon finding our squirrely friend, applied a tourniquet to his arm. This stopped the bleeding and stabilized him for the moment, and Edwin was shipped off to the local hospital. In response to a guy almost killing himself with his own booby trap while feeding squirrels, the county sheriff said, quote,
I was playing RuneScape earlier. I just really drank a coffee and it made me really tired.
While you might be tempted to think Edwin was
take a
hiding
nap
some
and keep my
dark secret,
pet
it
hunting
just
later.
wasn't the case in this situation. Yes, he was a bit on edge about trespassers, you could say. That's a fact, though. The guy's yard was full of signs expressing this sentiment. One sign specifically warned against crackheads, drug dealers, and illegal aliens. His biggest crime was perhaps being a bit too paranoid, and well, you see where that got him. Thankfully, Edwin's arm was saved from what I understand, and he recovered from this incident. They just don't want to see a black dog win an election. Ignorant folks keep stealing your campaign signs. It's a damn shame how divided our country has become. Nevertheless, thieves must be taught a lesson. Next time they try to get cute with this candidate's sign, they'll be in for a shocking surprise.
Oh yeah, I remember this news story.
Hands off the sign. Now, I would be remiss if I didn't talk about one of the most iconic booby trap subgenres, that being booby-trapped yard signs. Be it political, advertisements, or otherwise, people are known to trespass and remove signs from people's front yards. You see this a lot around election season in the United States. I remember a few years ago there was a case of a dude getting so fed up with his Trump signs getting stolen that he ran a low voltage current through them and shocked somebody who tried to steal it. Nobody went to jail, but it was just kind of funny. But someone has gone to jail over a no parking sign that was booby-trapped in a rather disturbing way. 51-year-old Jason Scott Curley lived in a mobile home on County Road 130 in the city of Oxford, Mississippi. Apparently, the parking situation in the neighborhood had become tense, to put it lightly. Throughout 2024, Jason became entangled in conflict with the neighboring public school after parents and people working at the school started parking their cars in a way that frequently blocked his driveway. Add that with another public entity that neighbored him, the Lafayette Fire Department, and a community center nearby, well, Jason was apparently inundated with cars blocking his drive. Fed up with these parking violators, Jason set up various no parking signs all around the vicinity of his mobile home property. The only issue is that some of them were allegedly not on his property. Jason had gotten a little cavalier and apparently set up no parking signs on other people's lots or public lots, which in turn would be removed by these property owners or entities. And when he saw these getting removed, the already on edge Jason snapped. And what was first nothing more than some standard neighborhood no parking drama, well, it would turn into actual bloodshed. On November 20th, 2024, a furious Jason Scott Curley allegedly stepped foot on a neighboring property near the school to replace his removed no parking sign. But this replacement sign was hiding something insidious. Later, an unassuming woman would see the sign and attempt to move it. But when doing so, she cut her hand wide open. Jason had booby-trapped the sign with hidden razor blades. The woman had to get medical attention over the matter. She went to a nearby store to get help and clean up the wound. County police were notified about the incident, and Jason was later arrested on charges of aggravated assault for purposely attempting to cause injury, and he was taken into the Lafayette County Detention Center, held on a $20,000 bond. Jason certainly had a right to be upset if people were blocking his driveway, though it appears in his crusade to get back at those who were blocking his lane, he got a little bit too zesty. The woman's injuries were thankfully minor, and she was expected to make a full recovery. As of now, Jason's case is still pending.
So I guess I probably should explain why booby traps are illegal in the first place. I mean, if people are trespassing, or even worse, breaking into your house, shouldn't it be legal to teach them a lesson? You know, come on, maybe just a little non-lethal shotgun shell blast? Yeah, sadly you can't do that. The reason they're illegal stems from the indiscriminately violent nature of booby traps, and it all goes back to a 1971 case, Briney versus Catco. So the Brineys were this family that had this big property in Iowa, and on it was a farmhouse that was unoccupied. Well, apparently they were having issues with trespassers and looters breaking into it and stealing shit all the time. So in an effort to protect it, they set up what's been described as a spring gun booby trap inside of it. This deadly trap would eventually be triggered and shot a local burglar by the name of Marvin Catco, who had broken in trying to steal some glass jars. He got shot in the leg in the process. So Marvin survived the incident, but he would later sue the Briney family. It went all the way up to the Supreme Court. And in a landmark decision, the court sided with the thief in Catco. He ended up winning. Why? Well, it's kind of complicated. You see, typically property owners have a right to directly deter or even neutralize trespassers. That is a thing. However, in the eyes of the Supreme Court, a booby trap wasn't a valid method of deterrence, as they can be lethal and deadly force can only be justified if there's an immediate threat to the property owner's life. There were no humans around at the time when Catco broke in there and the trap went off and hurt him. The law tends to value human life over property, and you can say that because there were no property owners' lives in danger from Catco's break-in, Potentially killing him with the trap would have been excessive and illegal, at least that's what the court said. One of the biggest parts of using the self-defense argument in court is that you have to make it clear that you were in fear for your life at the time of killing or your attempted killing of a person. And well, the Bryanies were definitely not in any danger when their trap went off. They didn't even know it had hit anybody for some time. Catco won the case, set booby trap precedent, and walked away about $20,000 richer. But Catco versus Bryany is really only part of the story when it comes to why booby traps are illegal. Other cases surrounding these traps have emphasized the indiscriminate nature of the booby traps as being particularly problematic. For example, let's say you set a booby trap at your back door to stop intruders, but one day you suffer a medical emergency and call 911 and a first responder comes in through that way and gets killed by the trap trying to save your life. There's just so much that can go wrong when a property is hiding lethal traps ready to go off on whoever triggers it from your phone. That indiscriminate nature is a big problem. So for those of you wondering why booby traps are illegal, I hope that puts it into perspective for you. All right. I'm sure there'll be plenty of comments down below. Moving on.
Our next chapter is called Getting Away With It. What if someone sets a booby trap and another person is physically affected? You're almost always going to face legal consequences, right? Sometimes, in particular circumstances, folks have gotten away with it. In the New Orleans metro area lived a man named Brendan Batt, and this guy owned a truck which was subjected to frequent break-ins. Reportedly, his lifted white pickup was broken into 8 times in the span of 3 months, which I'm pretty sure is like every week and a half it was getting busted into. He quickly learned not to keep anything valuable in there, but thieves would still destroy his window every time they tried to look for things, so he'd have to get that fixed, which is obviously really damn annoying. It had gotten so bad that the boys at the local glass repair place knew Brendan on a first name basis. Hey, it's that schmuck that keeps getting his window busted out. Yep, it's me again. In response to this, Brendan, who worked as a veterinarian, decided he'd set up a mechanism to trap the vermin who were pilfering his vehicle time and time again. He went with the old tried and true booby trap that we've seen many times in today's video. An improvised flashbang device using a 12-gauge shotgun round filled with gunpowder connected to a firing pin assembly and tripwire. It was rigged in such a way that it would explode in the face of anyone who attempted to open his truck's center console. Though despite the non-lethal intent here, this is still very much not legal to do, as the trap is indiscriminate. It could hurt anybody who entered it, not just the thief. And there's no self-defense element here either, because Brendan would have to physically be in the truck and feel threatened to justify the use of force in that way. Illegal or not, it would be successful at nailing the thief. On the night of April 2nd, 2022, outside of Brendan's apartment building, security cameras captured a vehicle driving up beside the booby trap truck. A masked man then hops out and brazenly smashes the truck window and lurches inside of it. Moments later, bam! Blasted right in the face, the robber is sent scrambling back to the getaway car. His crime spree cut short for the evening. I can only imagine the feeling of satisfaction Brendan experienced viewing this security footage. I'm sure he had a blast watching it. Others thought it was pretty funny too, as the recording would be shared online and went viral. Because of this, Brendan was contacted by numerous media outlets, eventually leading to an interview.
After having his car broken into 6 times in the last 2 months, a local man decided enough is enough and took matters into his own hands.
Street justice.
With a pin right here and a tripwire. So as someone comes and opens the box, this pin is going to get pulled.
Open that up.
It's an explosive blast caught on camera going viral.
The guy gleefully skips up to my car in the video. He's like bunny hopping up there like, here we go, I'm about to get, who knows what's in this one, you know? And then he finds out what's in there is not what he was looking for.
Despite what he did technically being illegal, this is one of those cases where the dude was clearly morally justified in every way and seemed like a chill guy, and the thief was obviously a scumbag. Well, just nobody really cared enough to enforce the law here. Though police didn't want people to go on a booby trapping spree around the city, so to cover their ass, they made this statement. While we understand the frustrations our citizens have with crime, rigging an explosive device to detonate inside a vehicle is illegal and a bad idea. The New Orleans police would also state outright that Brendan Batt would not be facing any charges and that they were actually assisting in finding who the attempted burglar was. I include this one because it shows that there is some gray area with booby traps. A lot of how the cops look at it can really just come down to optics. This guy's trap did little other than startle a guy who busted his window open. No harm, no foul, right? I mean, the same goes with the squirrel guy who deployed a trap on himself by accident. You gonna charge that guy for making a booby trap? I don't think so. It's all about optics. Did someone get killed? What was the motive for the trap? Does it look funny going off on video? A lot of this does seem to matter in regard to getting jail time for making booby traps. And well, that's booby traps for you. Let me know what you guys thought about this one down below in the comments section, and let me know who or what you want me to talk about next. I want to give a major shout out to my patrons. I appreciate you guys. Wavy Web Surf out. Peace.
Sorry. Shift is back for a long. Oh, okay. What team plays Rainbow Six Siege? You can't watch a guy who'll copyright me. Although he steals all his content too. You guys are horrible criminals. Abandoned channels with disturbing backstories.
Where Eric's head was at. Meanwhile, back on YouTube, the abandoned YouTube channels have always been unsettling to me. I get an uncanny feeling upon discovering a channel once full of life, now forlorn and forgotten. Years gone by, over a decade in some cases, with no activity. The sad reality with many of YouTube's abandoned channels is that the creator didn't forsake their station by choice. They were compelled to by tragic circumstances. In today's video, we'll be looking at various disturbing examples of such cases regarding abandoned channels. These are the dark stories behind abandoned YouTube channels. Well, it's on YouTube, there once existed a channel known as Natural Selector 89. When you try to visit this channel today, one is met with a 404 not found and YouTube's default "this page is not available" error screen. A rather unassuming disclaimer. But what you must know is that this 404 page hides one of YouTube's darkest abandoned channels. One that we can get a glimpse of using tools like the Wayback Machine. Natural Selector 89 was once a channel that discussed nihilism, atheism, and posted various threatening videos and comments regarding gun violence. Red flags were all over the place, and outside of TJ Kirk, better known online as the Amazing Atheist, it seemed like nobody saw these obvious warning signs. This is the story of Natural Selector 89, the Finnish YouTube shooter.
Hello everyone, this is me, Natural Selector 89, talking to you. friends and haters and everyone else.
The YouTube channels Natural Selector
Leave us
89
alone,
and
Lunar.
Sterngeist 89 were created
Leave
by
us
an
alone.
18-year-old Finnish student named
I know,
Pekka Erik
it's been stressing me
who
out.
was
I know,
born in
man.
Tuusula, Finland. Now, in early high school, it's said that Pekka performed well, making good grades. It's thought that he planned to attend college after graduating in the spring of 2008. Though these plans would be derailed, however, as the young man had some serious emotional issues that would make themselves known. Eric suffered from a set of serious social abnormalities. He was very awkward around his peers and was considered shy by both students and teachers. He would habitually isolate himself from others, and according to some, he was the recipient of a large amount of bullying because of this. Eric also suffered from depression. His parents were concerned for him in this regard and tried to get him admitted to a psychiatric outpatient clinic to treat it. However, his admittance was refused, and the practitioners opted to put him on SSRIs instead of admitting him. Eric would adhere to the SSRI antidepressants at first, but over time, him taking the pills, it became kind of irregular. After Eric started taking antidepressants, his teachers started to notice a change in his behavior. He became very aggressive towards other students, and at one point, he allegedly remarked that he was going to die in a, quote, white revolution. Yes, Eric would begin to express radical beliefs, and he vocalized support for far-right and left movements. This combo of increased agitation, threats, and interest in radical groups, it was certainly a worrisome concoction. And this behavior around the time was an ominous precursor for what was to come. Eric's mental state had deteriorated quite a bit in the latter half of high school, and he would eventually set out to physically engage in the violence that he often discussed. Eric would hatch a devious plan. It was reported in March of 2006 that he started laying out the groundwork for a master plan of sorts, which was an attack on the students and faculty of his very school. And while in the planning process for this foul deed, that's when Eric's online activity commences. Eric created his first YouTube channel, Natural Selector 89, on March 15th of 2007. He would use the channel to express himself by uploading various memes, quoting philosophers, reading poetry, as well as discussing events like shootings and natural disasters, as one does. The young man would also frequently talk about atheism and his hatred for religion. These videos contain talking points where he would, in rather juvenile fashion, criticize elements of the various faiths of the world. But on the same hand, he would also confidently proclaim in one of these videos that he was a god and that he should be worshipped. Pick a side, okay? Now, Eric's channel description on Natural Selector 89 is truly a sight to behold, and I think I'll just let TJ Kirk, the amazing atheist, read some highlights from this thing.
I will read it in the most derisive voice possible, but even if I didn't, it would still sound ridiculous. I'm basically getting more and more retards on my channel, saying I'm insane, crazy, or crap like that, because my views are different, apart from the moral majority. I am a dissident, I am an individual, I am an animal, I am a human. They are not. They live in a delusion which is called the real world. They say to me I must get a life. Heh. Well, all I say is that life is what every individual will make it be. There is no other meaning in this world and live than what individual determines it to be. They also feed my anger with their stupidity.
In one video uploaded by Eric, he would make cryptic comparisons to The Matrix, explaining that he wasn't delusional, he just saw society for what it was. A collection of people who believed they had freedom but were actually enslaved by the government and corporations, and you guys just don't realize it. We truly live in a society. Some of Eric's content would also revolve around the philosophy of social Darwinism. You know, to sum it up, social Darwinism, the same sort of natural selection that applies to plants and animals, well, that applies to humans as well, survival of the fittest, but in a social setting, meaning that certain, well, you might say that he was saying that some races were better than others, or people with disabilities shouldn't be around. Damn, Eric, we're really going this way? Now, as mentioned prior, atheism was a big part of Natural Selector's channel. He hated God and those who believed in religion to the point where
It almost seemed like he wanted to enact violence towards these folks. Now, in early YouTube, there is one YouTuber that likely comes to mind when you hear the word atheism. Enter the amazing atheist and the story of Eric Avenin, or Natural Selector. Yes, one content creator that noticed Eric's melodramatic and edgy videos on social Darwinism was TJ Kirk, the amazing atheist. The infamous skeptic YouTuber, early internet champion of atheism, and lover of bananas.
Behold, the atheist's nightmare.
So for those of you who haven't heard, I've recently become embroiled in a sex scandal involving chocolate syrup, pot coffee, and a banana, which apparently is the atheist's worst nightmare.
The amazing atheist was intrigued by Natural Selector's opening videos on nihilism and found his views on atheism questionable. So TJ would start making videos about Natural Selector, justifying his coverage by saying that the Natural Selector account was the primary representative of social Darwinism on YouTube, which even if his videos only got a few dozen of views, that was probably the truth or the case at the time. The amazing atheist would make a couple of videos criticizing Natural Selector's content, basically roasting him for essentially being what he saw as an edgy teenager who was talking about a bunch of philosophical and atheist stuff that he knew nothing about. Basically calling Natural Selector out for going Joker mode and being a whiny bitch.
A user by the name of Natural Selector 89. He is being chosen for 3 major reasons. First and foremost, he is the primary representative of this philosophy on YouTube. No one makes more videos on this exact topic than he does. Secondly, he refuses to defend his position to any subhuman that dares challenge it. Plus, despite Tanashil's insistence to the contrary, he is quite the whiny bitch.
Though TJ would end his criticisms of the Selector with a bit of good faith advice. He tells Eric that he shouldn't care about the people around him becoming mindless automatons and that he should just worry about his own life, which is some good advice. I'm not actually sure if Natural Selector ever responded directly to TJ in a video of his own, but yeah, it's important to this narrative that you know that the two interacted and that TJ was sort of calling this guy out for his sort of skewed views on atheism and his nihilistic postings. Sometime after the TJ saga, Eric's channel, Natural Selector 89, would actually be suspended from YouTube, this occurring in October of 2007. The reason for this ban is unknown. On the same day of this digital exile, he would create a new channel called Sturmgeist89, and his content would be in the same nature of his previously banned channel, with Eric continuing to talk about religion, his hatred for it, as well as his interest in historical carnages and tragedies. An escalation would soon come, and things would get deranged shortly after. As after Sturmgeist was created, Eric would obtain his own firearms license and purchase a .22 caliber Sig Sauer Mosquito handgun. Equipped with this weapon, he would subsequently upload videos testing out his pistol by shooting apples and lemons in the woods. Eric would become obsessed with this pistol and the other weapons that he would eventually collect in the coming weeks. And with his odd affinity for massacres like school shootings, it was clear where Eric's head was at. Meanwhile, back on YouTube, the amazing atheist who had been keeping an eye on Eric would grow concerned. You see, TJ suspected that Eric had been interacting with a radical online community that was led by a YouTube user who went under the pseudonym Robin McVeigh. This channel name obviously a reference to domestic terrorist Timothy McVeigh. This Robin McVeigh account reportedly posted content that encouraged people to commit school shootings or at least discuss school shootings extensively with almost like a praising nature to it. And apparently Eric had been communicating with this account. TJ, the amazing atheist, would see this and attempt to reach out to Eric, offering emotional support when he saw that he was being misled by this Robin McVeigh account. But alas, TJ apparently couldn't get through to Eric. And seeing the disturbing evolution of Natural Selector / Sturmgeist, TJ would make a call for authorities to investigate the Natural Selector / pro shooter community on YouTube. TJ felt
like somebody needed to look into these guys, but sadly, nobody of any authoritative capacity ever would, leading to the following tragedy. On November 7th, 2007, Eric would upload his final video to his channel, which was called Jokala High School Massacre 11/7/2007. In this video, he would share images of his own high school along with 2 photos of him holding guns colored with a crimson filter. It was clear what he was about to do. On the same day, Eric would upload multiple videos and files onto RapidShare, a Mediafire-like website. There he uploaded music and his own manifesto. This manifesto was written in both English and Finnish and would consist of Eric rationalizing his motives for a soon-to-come culling. It was his natural selection process. The manifesto highlighted social Darwinism, and Eric wanted it to be known as an act of terrorism, he says, a total war against humanity. Eric made sure to state in his manifesto that his violent tendency didn't come from any external factors and no one told him to do it. He says it all came from within. Suicide notes were also left on his desk at his house, addressed to his parents. One of these said, quote, "By the time you're reading this, I'm probably already dead." Eric would later enter Jokala High School with his arsenal of guns at approximately 11:40 a.m. 2 minutes later, he would encounter his first student, where he raised his weapon, fired, and killed the student on the spot. Eric would continue to go on to murder a total of 8 people, including an educational welfare officer who had tried to persuade Eric to surrender. Eric would respond to the peace offering by shooting the woman 7 times. Eric also attempted to burn the school down using a mixture of gas and oil. This attempt proved unsuccessful, though. A little bit before noon on this day, Eric would get into a shootout with the local police officers that were attempting to negotiate with him. He would try multiple times to reposition himself to get a good shot on him, but luckily he wasn't able to harm any of these officers. Afterwards, Eric would move to the school's bathroom, where he would put his bag and his jacket on the floor and attempted to take his own life sometime after 12:04 p.m. He shot himself in the head. However, he wasn't successful. Eric would later be carted to the hospital and he would die. The natural selector's wrath was finally over. This became an international news headline, and on the same day, the amazing atheist would upload a video titled, "I Knew This Would Happen." In the video, he begrudgingly expresses the fact that he wishes that people would have caught on to this earlier. He did predict it after all.
Today, I am vindicated, but I don't feel good about it. And you could probably tell that I'm not happy about my vindication, because it was something that I warned you would happen, something that I told you to be mindful of, and you didn't. You weren't mindful of it. You criticized me for it. Many of you said that I was being a bully, that I was picking on people. Well, one of those poor little picked-on morons decided that he was going to go to school and shoot up his class, and he killed 8 people, including his principal.
In his video, TJ would reveal that Eric had messaged him a few times recently, and apparently Eric showed remorse towards TJ and actually apologized for the past hostilities between them.
I don't really have anything to say. I mean, he was nice to me towards the end of our relationship, which was very tenuous. He wrote me a few times. I ignored him because I felt like I'd already done that. I felt like I'd already said my piece about him, and I didn't really have anything else to say. Right before he went on his shooting rampage, he sent me an IM that said, "I apologize for all the past hostilities between us." And I thought to myself at the time, well, that's very nice. I don't know where it's coming from. I don't know why you're suddenly apologizing to me, but thank you.
TJ claims that the apologetic message was sent right before the shootings occurred. TJ the atheist would end his video with a statement in which he proclaimed that
we shouldn't turn him into a monster and we shouldn't turn him into a hero. We need to think of him as exactly what he was, a pathetic fucking teenager who didn't know that what he was doing was wrong.
The Sturmgeist Natural Selector saga has been forgotten by most. In my view, this is one of the most disturbing instances that led up to an abandoned channel. This next abandoned channel story is truly a sad case.
It's the unfortunate tale of wildebeest 88883333.
A teenage creator who was killed in an infamous natural disaster, one that he eerily foreshadowed to years prior to his death. Will Norton was born on August 19, 1992 in Joplin, Missouri, to his parents Mark and Trish Norton. Will grew up with a happy-go-lucky attitude and was described as someone who loved meeting new people and making sure they felt included and welcome. He had aspirations of becoming a filmmaker and would make the decision as a teenager to start a YouTube channel.
Will Norton had created his YouTube channel wildebeest 88883333 on September 26, 2006, and he began making YouTube videos in November 8th of 2007,
where he gleefully shared various details of his life with the public.
Oh, life is good. That's right. It's a school night and it's late and I should be asleep, but I can't make myself go to sleep. I am just in way too good of a mood and I don't even know why. I have no reason why, to be honest. Sometimes it's good to just be happy. And sometimes it's good to just make a YouTube video. Well, this was fun. No, I'm kidding. I'm not leaving you yet. Jeez, what are you thinking? Come on, use your brain here, people. Wow, you all are like, man, wildebeest on the crack now. No. YouTube drama, stay away.
His videos were mostly comprised of traveling footage as well as interesting trivia facts about animals and other subjects that interested him. While creating content, Will would find some success, as he would eventually be invited into the YouTube Partner Program on May 13th of 2008.
Is that an advertisement, Will? Oh, now what's that? That would be a banner, yeah. That's right, I'm in the YouTube Partner Program. I'm really excited. This is going to hopefully motivate, is a good word, motivate me to make better videos.
He would continue to make YouTube videos about his life as a teenager. His channel serving as a diary of sorts, where he talked about pet peeves, life updates, plans for travel, stuff like that.
Here's my pet peeves. Let's take a picture for MySpace.
Alrighty.
You're so completely bored that you decided to take a picture for MySpace. Get your sunglasses on, you look all cool. That's good, I like it.
Oh, I look ugly.
You're not ugly. See? And it really is a good picture. But of course I don't like it. This next one usually happens when you're taking a test, typically a standardized test. And they do that. Will you stop that, please?
Oh, sorry.
Even one video where he excitedly talks about getting a Hummer for his 16th birthday, his prized possession.
Hey guys, so as a lot of you know, my birthday was August 19th, and I appreciate all the nice messages and comments and emails and everything you all sent me wishing me happy birthday. That really made it special. Also, as all of you know, if you're following me on Twitter, I got my car. It's a new Hummer H3.
Now there's one notable video around this time that we need to talk about. This video being something of an uncanny foreshadowing to Will's own demise. It was uploaded in May of 2009 and titled I Nearly Died.
It was a crazy story where he talks about how he survived a very powerful thunderstorm on the way to school one day.
It's May 8th, 2009, and today I nearly died. I wake up this morning and it is storming like crazy. I can hear the hail on the roof. I look out my window. The pool is going crazy because there's so much water flowing into it. The trees are crazy. It's still pitch dark outside and it's like 7:20. So I get ready really fast and I rush to school, out the door, and then I'm leaving for school and there is just tons of rain, and it's like every street is just like one entire puddle. And I'm going and there's trees down in the road, so I'm freaking out. I'm like, oh, I'm gonna be late.
To school.
I passed through 8 stoplights on my way to school. 4 of them exploded. And then I saw so many ambulances, which kind of freaked me out because I had to pull over into the big puddles, and I was like, ah. Keep in mind, I drive a Hummer, so really I shouldn't have any reason to be scared.
Just him flexing in this video. Bragging that he has a pool and a Hummer.
And the wind is so crazy. You just see water. It's like horizontal rain, and all the cars are like veering. I was having trouble keeping my car on the road. I drive a Hummer. This should not be happening.
While telling the story, he details how he almost lost his life in the squall due to its intensity.
Anyway, I get there, and I turn on the road that my school is on, and there's a power plant right by it, and it explodes. Like sparks go all across the road and like hit the road. Oh my gosh, it was crazy, right in front of my car. I was freaking out. I made it safely home, and I think I'm just gonna go take a nap for the rest of my life because I didn't die. Oh my gosh, I'm done. I am done. I'm never driving in weather again, ever. Bye guys.
This wouldn't be Will's only encounter with violent storms, as the dark irony of this piece of content would make itself apparent many years later. Meanwhile, as Will continued to create content, it would be revealed that the young YouTuber wasn't the only one in the Norton family who had the urge to be creative online, as his sister Sarah Norton also uploaded videos to her own YouTube page. Her content mostly consisted of makeup tutorials and fashion vlogs. The two were extremely close, as she described him as the most incredible brother anyone could ask for, and she said Will was someone who truly valued happiness. Now back to Will, he continued to find success and even had some brushes with actual famous people. See, at one point Will expressed that his biggest idol in life was Kat Von D from LA Inc.
If you don't know this about me, which a lot of you do, I am obsessed with Kat Von D. Like, here's my room. This is a picture of my room. Yes. That's how obsessed I am with Kat Von D. I have her book. I have 5 posters of her. I think about her constantly. She's through the background on my phone and on my computers and everything. Yeah.
Apparently, the video of him discussing this got back to Kat Von D, and the artist tweeted at him. This resulted in the two connecting, and Will later going to LA to meet up with her. Will made a YouTube video talking about all of it. Increasingly successful in the online world, Will also thrived at school. In school, Norton was an excelling student, and as he continued to make content on his YouTube channel, his passion for filmmaking only increased. And that goal would be fulfilled near the end of his senior year of high school, when he would be accepted into Chapman University, which was a difficult program to get into. Will Norton's life seemed to be set. But sadly though, as you all know, Will the Beast is an abandoned channel. And with a dedicated creator like Will Norton, it's obvious that his absence wasn't by choice. In May of 2011, Will would have another run-in with a severe storm. This time, the young man wouldn't live to tell the tale. Will Norton was set to graduate from Joplin High School on May 22, 2011. The ceremony was held at the Missouri Southern State University campus, which was near the outskirts of Joplin, northeast of downtown. Storms were in the forecast on this day, but few in town expected what was to come. As Will's graduation ceremony wrapped up, weather conditions began to rapidly deteriorate. From what Will's sister Sarah recounts, they weren't all too concerned though, as only a tornado watch had been issued for the area that day, meaning that there was a possibility of a tornado, but an active twister hadn't been spotted. Tornado watches are common in the Midwest, especially springtime in Missouri. Many folks from Joplin likely expected nothing more than a thunderstorm. Will wasn't worried. He had survived many in his time. So at this graduation, despite the weather, there wasn't much panic. Will and company certainly weren't dilly-dallying though, and with their son officially graduated, the Norton family decided to head home. They would split up, with his sister and his mother driving together, and Will and his father driving home in Will's prized Hummer. As Sarah drove home, she noticed the sky turning an ominous black, and winds picked up. Her gut began to tell her this was no routine thunderstorm. Something big was descending upon Joplin. Driving with her mother in the passenger seat, Sarah developed a sense of urgency to get home, flooring her vehicle as fast as she could, running red lights to beat out what looked to be a developing tornado. Sarah's tornado instincts didn't fail her this day, as such a twister had just touched down near Joplin. It was a tornado that would unleash natural horrors dwarfing all that the state had seen in the past several decades. The 2011 Joplin EF5 twister had come. This massive, nearly mile-wide tornado approached Joplin from the southwest and was killing virtually all who crossed its path. All on the roads at this point were sitting ducks for the storm. Sarah and her mother would make it home as the storm raged. Their power soon went out and debris buffeted their home. Thankfully, though, it appeared they were going to be spared from a direct hit by the tornado. But what about Will and his father? Desperate for an update, Sarah called Will on his cell phone, to which he would quickly pick up. It was difficult to make out what was going on, but Sarah says in this brief call she could hear Will's father faintly yell out, "There's a tornado, pull over!" And moments later, a gusting roar and a loud crash overtook the audio of the phone, and the call was almost immediately disconnected.
And we talked, and I was trying to talk to him. I said, "Dad, are you there? Can you just answer me, please? Are you there? Are you there?" And so finally, I heard him say, "Will," because Will was driving. My dad was in the passenger seat of his H3. And I finally heard my dad say, "Will, pull over, pull over, pull over." He goes, "There's the tornado, pull over." And then I just heard this wind suck them up, and I could tell it was really bad. I could tell it wasn't just outside the car somewhere. I could tell that they were getting blown up in the tornado. They were getting sucked up, and I could hear glass and everything. And then finally the phone went dead, and I kept saying, "Dad, can you hear me? Just tell me you're okay. I love you. Can you hear me?"
It seemed as if Will had crossed the path of the tornado and his vehicle might have gotten sucked up into the vortex and tossed. Yes, during the tornado, Will's Hummer had found itself right in the middle of the storm. It said that when they were being sucked up by the twister, Will's father attempted to protect his son, covering him up while the tornado overtook the car. But the force of the tornado was too strong, ripping Will not only from his father's arms, but from the entire vehicle. Will was snatched out of his seatbelt by the winds and sucked through the Hummer's sunroof. His fate was in the hands of Mother Nature at this point. The gargantuan Joplin EF5 was the deadliest tornado to occur in the United States since 1947. It killed 158 people, as well as an additional 8 indirectly. Injuries from the storm added up to 1,150. Over 8,000 buildings were damaged. Among those, 4,000 were destroyed, amounting in $2.8 billion in damages to the area. Among all of these grim statistics, it was the costliest tornado in American history. The remaining community members of Joplin were left to pick up the pieces of this freak storm, and their first task was to rescue those trapped and to find the missing. The Nortons were dealing with such an instance of missing family members. Will and his father never returned home. Sarah and Mom would drive around town for a while, and they did find Will's Hummer. It was completely ravaged, and Will and his father were nowhere to be found in the wreckage. They hoped that perhaps they were rescued and taken to a hospital, so the remaining family members would go to the local hospital. And there they would discover that Will's father was indeed there. He had had a torn bicep and several other serious injuries. When he came to, he would inform them that Will was sucked out of the car and he wasn't sure if he was alive. Over the next several days, the family would continue their searches and continue to call hospitals to see if Will had showed up. No luck. Eventually, 5 days later, the family would finally be notified that Will's body had been found. It was in a pond near the area that the tornado had destroyed his vehicle. Will was dead. As news traveled about Will the Beast's passing, many reached out to social media to express their condolences, including Kat Von D, Will's idol, who would draw a picture in memory of Will Norton. On June 9th of 2011, Sarah Norton would upload a video going over everything that had happened to their family from her perspective. She would also go on to applaud her brother and say that he had been a man of God, and he was truly blessed to have lived a miraculous life where he saw many things and had many adventures. Sarah was astonished by the love and support that he was receiving posthumously from fans and viewers. In 2013, after receiving donations, the Rotary Club at Will's school opened a handicap-accessible ballpark playground that was named after Will, called the Will Norton Miracle Field. As a result of the Joplin EF5, Will's channel remains abandoned to this day. His sister Sarah would issue another memorial for him on her channel in 2020. And I think I'll end this segment with a brief quote from that.
So what I usually try to do every year on May 22nd is try to remember Will and do things that he loved to do. So that usually means going to Starbucks and getting a white mocha, his favorite drink, or going to Sonic and getting an ocean water, which was his other favorite drink. He loved to take pictures with his tongue out, colored blue from the ocean water. And I like to try to spend the day with people who I love most and who understand what I'm going through. So that usually means my husband, obviously my daughter now, and then lots of times we spend the day with my parents. Sometimes I like to go to Will's gravesite, but if we're being honest, like that's not where I feel closest to him. So I love having pictures of Will around me, especially on this day. If you'll notice, I turned my entire film room into like this wildebeest fun room, and I absolutely love looking at these pictures. It makes me so happy. I love going through all the pictures and videos on my phone that I have of Will and me. It just brings me a lot of joy and happiness, and I don't know, just reminds me of all the great memories that we've shared together.
Harley Dilly.
Harley Dilly and Harley Dilly 2.0 were channels created by a teenage boy from Ohio named Harley Dilly.
What's up, boys? It's your boy, Harley Dilly.
These pages were a hub for the teenager to upload video gaming content around the Madden series and the trading card game that was ancillary to this franchise. But Harley's content isn't what makes him notable. It's the bizarre circumstances surrounding the abandonment of his channel. See, Harley abruptly vanished, and his channel has been left untouched since December of 2019. In what would eventually become a law enforcement investigation and an alleged conspiracy plot that swept the online true crime sleuth community into a frenzy, this is the story of Harley Dilly. Let's begin with a bit of personal life details surrounding Harley. It's said that he has some issues as a teenager. 14-year-old Harley Dilly from Port Clinton, Ohio, his life revolved around gaming. According to his mother, Heather Dilly, her son had a video game addiction. Gaming would cause turmoil in the Dilly house frequently. Heather revealed in an interview that at one point the family had become concerned with this perceived addiction and they took away Harley's games, resulting in him throwing a particularly angry fit that caused the police to be called. Outbursts such as this were said to have been somewhat common from Harley. The young gamer suffered behavioral issues and was diagnosed with Asperger's when he was a young boy. As a child, he would get in trouble at school as well and had to regularly attend counseling for his behavioral issues. As a teenage gamer, Madden football in particular became an outlet for Harley to channel out pent-up energy. He found the competition in these games too enticing to put down. According to Harley's mother, as his skills in Madden and other games grew, Harley expressed that he wanted to become a full-time gamer and online gaming influencer. He had aspirations to be a YouTube content creator or a streamer, perhaps. Make that money, you know what I'm saying? Harley's personality would become completely defined by his affinity for gaming and Harley's YouTube content creator or a streamer, perhaps. Make that money, you know what I'm saying? Harley's personality would become completely defined by his affinity for gaming and online content creation. His passion for it so obvious to his peers that Harley was voted most likely to become a YouTuber in his high school yearbook once. He would regularly upload gaming videos and also these vlog style videos where he could be seen complaining about his parents. All this content would be posted to the Harley Dilly channel. Yeah, in addition to his gaming content, as I just mentioned, he would sometimes discuss issues in his personal life in detail, family drama notably. One notable video in this regard was published in October of 2018. And it has him discussing an altercation with his mother, which ended up with the police getting called, similar to a scenario we talked about earlier.
Hey guys, what's up? It is Harley Dilly. Probably one of my worst days in my life. So basically, I was at school and I was science test. I finished it and my computer says 1% battery left. So I get to the next class and I put it on charger as quick as possible, but it didn't charge. None of the computers would take a charge. So I took it back and I had to fill out a complaint, and that's one of the most expensive parts of the computer. And my mom said she's not paying anything. That's when I got home. So then my mom wanted me to go with her to go get a friend, and I said I don't want to. I have work to do, so I want to go home. She said no. We argued for about a good 5 minutes. Then she snapped. She said she was gonna call police, and she said she already did. She said who do you think that first call was to? And she said it was the police.
Harley seemed rather upset with his life circumstances, to say the least. Now, sometime around this upload, Harley Dilly would create a new YouTube channel called Harley Dilly 2.0. His reasoning for doing so is stated in the channel's description. Quote, "This is my main channel, but temporarily named because other channel is getting deleted in 2 years." And I gotta be honest, I don't exactly know what Harley means here. Maybe this was like a secret channel that his parents couldn't know about. I really have no idea. I don't know if his first channel was terminated or what, but his explanation just doesn't make any sense. If that makes sense to you, will you please tell me what that means in the comments? So from August of 2019, Harley Dilly would post to the Harley Dilly 2.0 YouTube channel. And after creating this channel, he seemed full of energy and was excited for the future, stating in one video that the depression was over.
Oh boy, the depression is over.
In his first video, he would declare that his main goal would be to reach 1,000 subscribers within the next 2 years.
But now we are on to bigger, new things. And that means that this Harley Dilly YouTube channel, the goal is to reach 1,000 subs in the next 2 years.
Most of the content on this channel would consist of gaming videos with him playing games revolving around Madden, particularly Madden Mobile, because apparently his family had taken away all of his gaming consoles for bad behavior, and the phone version of Madden was all that he had left. Speaking of Harley's parents, they have shared their thoughts regarding Harley's online presence on occasion. And unsurprisingly, they really weren't all too thrilled, at least according to a criminal justice update posted by the Attorney General's office in Ohio. They said that Harley was just super careless in the way that he published content, like he would be filming a vlog update video while taking a bath, you know, naked, which I guess the kid didn't realize why that might be a problem. It's also claimed that Harley would post his address and phone number on social media, which is bad for a variety of reasons, and that coupled with the bathtub thing, I mean, I get it, parents. All this aside, though, as Harley grew older, problems only worsened in his personal, social, and family life. In school, Harley continued to get into trouble. According to his mother, he was at one point suspended from school for allegedly slapping a student, which would lead to him getting an assault charge. According to his mother, Heather, when Harley finally returned to school, he would go on to hit another kid.
But he also got in trouble at school. He got OSS for slapping a kid in school, and he has assault charges. In fact, we just got the papers Saturday. I don't even know what day it is anymore. And he never thought that he would get that. They're not going to do anything. They didn't do anything. You know, so we kept telling him, no, you're going to end up in DH if you don't change your ways. But he don't believe it. He's not accepting that this is a consequence, because then he got in trouble after he went back from OSS. It was the next week sometime. He got in trouble again for kicking a boy in the balls.
Harley would also have more altercations with his parents, disputes that reportedly would result in him running away to stay with friends. The only reasonably stable element of Harley's life at this point was his YouTube channel. He continued to post through 2019, and his page seemed like the only place that we truly see Harley happy. He loved making content despite his family woes, school drama. Harley found a way to put a smile on his face when the camera was on and the gameplay was rolling. So with this being his only respite from the chaos that was his life at the time, why did he stop uploading? Why does the Harley Dilly 2.0 channel sit abandoned? Harley's last YouTube upload would be published on December 10th of 2019. It was Madden Mobile gameplay with commentary. Nothing out of the ordinary.
The only game I watched of week 14 was the Browns, and then I watched a little bit of the Chiefs versus Patriots. Boom, Austin Eckler with the touchdown. Well, that took a while to score a touchdown with him. Not saying that it's his fault.
A little over a week later, a mysterious set of circumstances would play out that had the internet and law enforcement up in a frenzy looking for answers, as Harley would go missing. According to reports, on Friday, December 20th, 2019, Harley woke up and reluctantly went to school after insisting to his parents that he should be allowed to stay home for the day. His parents wouldn't budge, as it was the last day of school before Christmas break, and they thought, Harley, you really just need to go. I mean, you're about to get a vacation anyways. So later, Harley Dilly would be spotted on a neighborhood surveillance camera heading to the direction of his school. However, Harley would never make it to his destination on this day. He seemingly vanished from the face of the earth and would never be seen alive again. The school day would come to an end, and Harley never comes home. His father would report his son missing to the authorities on the following day, on December 21st at 11:50 p.m. Now, the reasoning given that they waited for such a long time in between the disappearance and the report is apparently because they were used to Harley running away and thought that this was just another one of those circumstances. Maybe he was staying with a friend. But after an entire day had passed, they figured that wasn't the case and started to actually get worried that something bad had happened to Harley. Yeah, it is a little bit suspicious and kind of weird. I mean, many of you out there probably grew up in a house where that wouldn't be the case, but whatever. On December 22nd, 2019, police began searching a 150-acre area around where Harley was last spotted, hoping for a miracle. Given Harley Dilley's history for running away, Port Clinton police didn't initially suspect foul play. They thought it was just a missing child case. Being treated as a runaway child case of sorts, on Christmas Eve, the investigation would escalate as the local authorities would issue a missing child advisory. The search would go nationwide on December 27th. This story would hit the internet as well, and internet sleuths from around the world would begin to pry into the details of the case and the history of Harley Dilley's online presence. These sleuths began to become suspicious of his mother. Internet detectives soon took to social media to accuse Harley Dilley of murdering her own son, sourcing interviews that she had previously participated in with the Ohio Bureau of Criminal Investigation, claiming she was lying in these interviews about everything. They also found an old stream that Harley did where he was complaining about being locked out of his house, and this would be used as evidence against Heather Dilley by these conspiracy theorists.
And I went to talk to my assistant principal because he's like the only person I can really trust in this. So I went to talk to him, and he told me that my mom never called the police. So she lied to me to get me scared, and she locked me out of the house. So right now I'm outside. Yep, the house is locked. It is 3:30. I haven't ate anything.
They claim that she was a neglectful mother, or at the worst, killed him. Real-world police, they didn't share the suspicion that the internet sleuths had, though, surprisingly. The police had actually done somewhat of an investigation on the parents already, even having cadaver dogs go into their house and look around for Harley. They didn't treat them as suspects at all. They had been totally ruled out. Heather was also spearheading a social media effort at the time to find her son, and even posted a video to Facebook urging people to help find Harley.
Fine, you all want to see what I look like when I'm not taking my meds to help. You want to know what it's like to have a son missing. It hurts. It makes you feel like you can't go on, but you have to go on. You don't understand. You seriously don't know what it feels like. Stop basting my family. Harley, please come home. Please come home. Let him go. Please. I want him home. I'm tired of crying. I'm tired of being strong when
She's
I
like
can't
one tooth on the bottom.
You guys are such monsters.
A guilty party could do something like this, I guess, but it's unlikely. You know, people were saying she was pulling a Christopher Watts move, if you know what I'm saying. Despite the mother's visible distress regarding this situation, online sleuths continue to accuse her of murder and other serious crimes, you know, maybe kidnapping or child trafficking. The police would catch wind of these armchair amateurs and would comment, quote, "It's unbelievable," Chief Hickman said. "I never really looked at it that way until I started following other cases of people who went missing. Some of the same people commenting on Harley were on those pages. So I don't know if they just sit at home and think up conspiracies. I don't understand it." An award of nearly $20,000 was offered to anyone who knew about where Harley was or what could have happened to him. And this reward would eventually help in police getting a break. On January 13th of 2020, a tip would come in that led to police performing a search of an unoccupied summer home that was across the street from the Dilley residence. There, they would make an astonishing discovery, as Harley's coat and his glasses were found on the second floor of the property on the ground. Knowing he could likely be somewhere at the house, they performed a hurriedly yet thorough search of the entire place. And during this final scrying effort, Harley Dilley's body was found. The location of the body baffled all in attendance, as his remains were lodged in the chimney of the home. Looks pretty sus at first, but after thinking things over, police determined that there was still no foul play. They presented the following explanation for Harley's untimely death. Harley Dilley left his house that morning and never had any intent to go to school. Rather, what he was going to do was find a place that he could camp out for the day and simply return after school was out, so it looked like he went without ever having to go. It was cold outside that day, so Harley needed somewhere somewhat warm to stay in. And that's when he got the idea to stay at this vacant summer home. This house actually has an antenna pole outside of it that is climbable. And they said that Harley climbed up this pole, scaled up it, and then basically tried to enter the house through the chimney, fell through, and got stuck. In the process of trying to get himself loose, Harley would lose his jacket and his glasses, which fell down and emptied out through the bottom of the chimney. He was never able to free himself, and Harley died from asphyxiation, lodged in the flue. Many in the local community were satisfied with this explanation, and Harley's death was deemed a freak accident of sorts, a tragedy nonetheless. But even with his body found and the family officially cleared, the online mob still raged. And they continued to try to pin the mother as being responsible, or went as far as alleging that the cops were trying to cover for them. Something that really fueled the conspiracy fires took the form of this picture, which showed Harley's coat hanging from atop of a door in the same house where Harley's body was found. This photo is somewhat confusing, as if Harley Dilley died in the chimney flue, then how did his coat get on the door? Well, it was later explained that during evidence collection and photography, one of the detectives put this, coat up on the door. Were the police lying, and was this coat put up there by whoever killed Harley or whoever had trafficked him? Well, and credit to the conspiracy theorists, there was something wrong about this, but it's not in the way that they were suggesting. The police had actually fucked up in the process of taking evidence, and somebody had moved the jacket up to this spot on this door, and a photo was taken of that as well, which made it seem conflicting to the story that they presented. Basically, somebody moved some evidence that they weren't supposed to move and took a photo that they shouldn't have taken. This lapse caught the police department off guard, as the rookie mistake got published online. Quote, "The mistake that's going to haunt me for the rest of my life is we hung the coat on that door," Chief Hickman said. "We should have blocked the windows during the search, but that's hindsight." When police confirmed that they were in fact the ones who put the coat above the door, the ferocious true crime addicts didn't believe their story. This virtual aggression manifested into the real world as protesters and demonstrators would flock around Port Clinton all through this investigation and even after the body had been found.
They criticized the job authorities were doing and demanded the cops bring in the FBI and National Center for Exploited and Missing Children.
In all reality, both entities had been a part of this investigation for weeks at that point. Some protesters even got arrested for trespassing onto the property where Harley was found dead. The online sleuths would later create a petition on change.org for the arrest of Harley's parents, citing negligence. This petition got over 40,000 signatures. Despite a concluded investigation and official documents that exonerated the parents from any wrongdoing, people on the internet still believe that Harley Dilley's parents were responsible for his death to this day. There are some elements behind his disappearance that are somewhat suspicious, but I think if you piece together the backstory of Harley and his troubles at home, I think it is certainly possible for a kid to try to climb up an antenna tower and camp out into a house. Naturally, Harley Dilley's channel now remains as an abandoned YouTube channel, and in case you were wondering, that's how it happened. That was the story of Harley Dilley.
Please like the video, dogs.
It's always unsettling when you discover an abandoned YouTube channel. finding a page that was once full of life and activity sitting dormant and
I killed
forlorn.
a chemical
It
hydrant
always
a
makes you
couple
wonder
times
what
today.
became of the creator.
Kill more
The
later.
answer isn't always clear at first. Now, most of the time, these folks decided YouTube just wasn't for them and they moved on to greener pastures. But in a handful of cases, like Kenny Veach, for example, and the next abandoned channel that we're discussing, their final video is directly related to the reason of the untimely abandonment. Which brings us to the story of Hobstobe, the train surfing YouTuber who met an unfortunate demise. James, or Jim William Stobie, aka Stobe the Hobo or Hobstobe, was born October 23rd, 1984. James would join the U.S. Coast Guard and serve 4 years. He would be honorably discharged. In addition to being a military veteran, Stobie was a veteran train hopper as well, and had been doing this for 10 years at the time of his channel's creation. During his ventures, he would document his escapades in what was more or less a guerrilla filmmaking style, showcasing his travels from train to train across the country.
Greetings, viewers. Stobe Cold Steve Austin here. Stobe the Hobo, whatever. Basically, little update here. This is, first of all, this is near Lake McConaughey, Nebraska. And this line here, for the rail fans in the audience, this is the UP Powder River Basin connector line from North Platte and the big, you know, overland main line, Chicago to Oakland line. This is where the coal comes down out of the mines. We got double tracks. So this way you've got North Platte, and then that way is the mines. There's tons of trains through here.
These rail riding ventures would be uploaded to his YouTube channel, which was created on February 15th, 2012. His first video would debut 3 days later. In the video, the 27-year-old Stobe would introduce himself as a regular guy who just needed to get from place to place.
Hello, my name is Jim Stobie. Let me tell you a little about myself before we get to our main topic. I'm 27 years old, and my age, I've kind of come to a point where when I travel, I want to travel in style. I want to get there fast, and I want to feel very comfortable. And so therefore, this new method is something I will now showcase to you.
Instead of using more conventional methods, Jim would convey that he had a different approach: train hopping.
The method of travel I plan on using is known as cargo freight train riding.
His first video acted as a tutorial of sorts, showcasing what items you bring when you're train hopping and the procedure that you use from going to train as safe as possible.
I will now detail the various accoutrements I will be bringing along with me on this trip. A reasonably warm sleeping bag. A crude and yet fashionably colored pack. A comfortable one-piece fleece jumpsuit to be worn underneath this one-piece cotton jumpsuit. And while this one-piece cotton jumpsuit does come off as a bit crude and forlorn, might I add that very many famous movie stars and musicians have worn this exact outfit.
Now, many might romanticize train hopping, but in reality, it's a dirty, rugged way to travel, and is incredibly dangerous no matter how careful you are. Jim tried his best to be as cautious as possible in his videos, but nonetheless, the threat of death was always there. Stobie told the Daily Dot in 2016, quote, "I've tried a lot of ways to get attention as an artist. This seems to be the only one that people notice. I'm really disappointed with modern boring life in the United States and the fact that traveling basically requires a personal vehicle these days. I only make YouTube videos that are original content, and this is a way to do that with the total glut of material on YouTube these days." He would also speak to the Daily Dot about the dangers of train hopping, saying, quote, "Trying to get on or off at high speed or with too much alcohol in my system. A specific instance would be dismounting while fatigued or blitzed, wiping out and watching a wheel go 2 inches from my face. The man apparently almost falling off and getting hit by the train's wheel." Many believe that Jim was some sort of homeless man given the name of his channel, but in fact he had his own apartment and had many other talents that could bring him money. Jim was an accomplished piano player and scored music for the background of his videos.
It's like the fucking hobo dog, the fucking dog. The dog hobo.
Not to mention he was in the military, meaning that he likely got some benefits. Throughout his ventures, Stobie would travel through the state of Illinois, the cities of Toledo, Fargo, and Jacksonville, and other cities around the country. He also traveled to Indonesia, as well as hitchhiked to Denver on July 4th to see fireworks there. As the channel gained traction, Stobie would pitch the idea for fans of his content to fund his travels. That way, he could provide even more content for viewers to enjoy.
Let's talk about the costs of doing one of the trips I do for a minute. I'd like to start by saying any voyage, whether you're going to Mars with Elon Musk or traveling by cargo train, requires a budget. Unless you want to eat dumpster food and drink tap water for an entire month, you're gonna need money for food, beer, an occasional hotel, and then just some extra cash for a bus ticket if you get stranded or a trespass ticket. Any number of things.
He would also include Patreon incentives for donators. From 2012 to 2017, Stobie would regularly upload his adventurous thrill rides to his channel. Almost 40 episodes were published. His videos had something of a nostalgic feel to them. They were very lo-fi in quality, and it was almost as if, you know, you were watching a guy LARP as like a Great Depression era train hopper / panhandling. It was a way to see a part of America that you really don't see normally, the tracks and the area around that. Jim had other YouTube plans as he wanted to create a channel where he was stationary in it. He admitted that he had ideas for a commentary channel that he would call Stobe Attack, where he commentated on current events and news stories that popped up. But sadly, Stobe would never get to partake in this second channel, as activities on the first would lead to his demise. One of Jim's last train ride adventures would be uploaded to YouTube on November 6, 2017, in which he would jump on a train in Wendover, Wyoming. In the video, you could see the type of risks he routinely took. A precarious stunt with a confident man moving with the expertise of a 10-year train hopping veteran.
Careful till I'm in front. Up here. Careful. Okay. It's not great. This is not great, but it'll work. I hope.
Sadly, though, shortly after this video, Stobie would be involved in a terrible mistake that would cost him his life. An unlisted video published to his YouTube channel would show Jim in the Baltimore area. He was talking about avoiding rain and apparently was about to perpetrate a train hop.
This train actually goes all the way to Selkirk. This is the 410. But, I mean, the rain, this is, forget it.
Yeah, you're gonna slip.
We got heavy rains going on, which I'm not into.
Now, it's never actually been officially concluded how Stobe really died, but on November 8th of 2017, Hobe Stobe was found dead in Baltimore, Maryland, around some train tracks. Apparently, he had fallen off of an overpass onto the tracks below. The man was dead at only 33 years old. Stobe's death would lead to a lot of confusion online, as many couldn't fathom a veteran train hopper like him making what they saw as a rookie mistake. There were many conspiracy theories surrounding his death, but it was pretty clear that Stobe had either been hit by a train or had fallen while trying to hop on one. His body was identified due to his fingerprints that were put into the database when he was in the military. Stobe's obituary would read, quote, "To some, he will become a legend through his life's work, and to others, he will be fondly remembered solely for his quirky yet lovable self, as evidenced by his humor, fierce wit, compassion, deadpan delivery, solicited and unsolicited commentary on just about anything, unbridled passion for unconventional living, mad piano skills, the enormous talent that he generously shared with all the lives he intersected with, and countless other things. He will indeed be greatly missed by all who knew him, while leaving an irreparable gaping hole in the hearts, minds, and souls of his family." Around the time of his final upload, Stobe had close to 11,000 subscribers. He now has 56,600 to this day. His channel remains abandoned. She seemed happy, excited to entertain, and was adored by thousands of viewers. They called her the British Boxy. Colossal Carnage 08 was primed to be a massive success on YouTube. Her last upload was May 2nd of 2010. This is her story. In January of 2008, YouTuber Boxy Babe, or Boxy as she's most commonly known on the internet, set the web on fire after going viral, showcasing her bubbly charisma and personality.
Okay, hi, my name is Boxy, and I was just surfing on the internet like I do, and I happened across your video, and so I watched it, and you were talking about me, and so I just thought that I should make you this video to clear a couple things up.
There were many Boxy clones out there after the Queen went viral. You could say there was an untapped market for this type of creator.
One British YouTuber, likely inspired by Boxy,
would show up online about a year later, boasting a similar persona to Boxy. Her name was Chloe Shaw. Chloe created her YouTube channel Colossal Carnage 08 on December 18th, 2008, creating her first video July 24th, 2009, when she was 17 years old. About a year later, though, her career would be non-existent online, as there was something else behind this bubbly personality that was unnoticed by friends and family. This brace-faced teenager's first video consisted on her giving herself a scene kid makeover.
Hi there YouTube, my name's Colossal Carnage, and it's about 3 in the morning, and I'm bored out my brains, and I was talking to a friend, and he said, oh, you know, I'm about to log off, because I know you're probably going to do an all-nighter and can't bother to go back on the PS3, I'll give you something to do. And so now we have a little wager, because I'm, well, how people have the, like, I'm seen, I'm this, I'm hardcore, I'm goth, and so I don't have one. I'm just whatever. I'm usually big baggy top from HMV and skinny jeans. Whatever works. And he said, I dare you to go scene and then post it on YouTube. So I thought, yeah, why not?
Videos like this back in the day got a lot of interaction, and her comments would be filled with pervs commenting on her looks. You know, it's a 17-year-old girl, guys. But Chloe fought back against these creeps and trolled them by making a jump scare video. While in school, Chloe was a successful theater kid.
While most child actors eventually grow up to hate their kids' TV roles, others, like the cast of Nickelodeon's Ned's Declassified School Survival Guide, are trying so hard to return to the only version of themselves that the world still remembers. Their never-ending pursuit to reboot the show went from a fun walk down memory lane to a desperate attempt to get work.
I just don't understand how Spider-Man can be remade 437,896 times and Ned's Declassified can't even get reboot once.
Harmless nostalgia turned into oversharing, and the more they talk, the more they destroy the show's reputation.
I ran through every Ned's cast member before I landed on Devin.
Do you remember that?
The first what? Which one, Lindsay?
The first one, Devin!
First what? BJ.
Somehow, the harder they work to get their fan base to come together and celebrate a shared childhood memory, the more clear it became there isn't anything worth revisiting. And what proceeded to happen was one of the weirdest downfalls in Nickelodeon history.
I just have
to grab some more water and fill this. It's so much better if I just play Weird in the fucking dark. It's so much better. There's some Weird in the dark. Don't hurt my eyes. If I play it after this fucking thing, because I'm thinking. As soon as I try to relax, I just wake up.
That they hate
when
my
I'm gaming, I'm fucking tired.
Ned's Declassified School Survival Guide is not in most people's top 5 best Nickelodeon TV shows. It was good, but there were too many legendary shows to compete with, like Drake and Josh, iCarly, Victorious, The Amanda Show, All That,
The
Kenan and
Amanda
Kel,
Show,
etc.
All That,
iCarly, Victorious, The Amanda Show, All That.
Yeah.
Kenan and Kel, etc. The show follows Ned, a 6th grader who is narrating the story of his crazy day-to-day life in middle school, alongside his 2 best friends, Cookie and Mose. Cookie is a cyber genius, always looking to technology to solve their problems. Mose is the level-headed girl best friend that Ned can't decide if he is secretly in love with or not. And together, they navigate crazy teachers, bullies, crushes, group projects, school lunches, dances, and whatever other school shenanigans they get into.
Sitting in the back of the bus definitely has more bounce, but you might not want to push it.
And although the show was comedic, often putting the cast in ridiculous and unrealistic scenarios, many of the tips Ned gave to the viewer could be perceived as genuinely good advice for a coming-of-age teen.
Preset your locks, first 2 numbers, so later you can open it with the classic 1 turn.
What really made the show stand out was the abundance of wacky side characters, like Gordy the janitor, Vice Principal
I remember
Scrubs,
Gordy the
Coconut
janitor,
Head,
and
Randall
Coconut
and
Head,
Martin,
yeah.
and of course, Timmy Toot Toot.
Oh yeah, Timmy. Yeah.
What's toot toot?
Every cast member felt like a caricature of someone you might recognize from a real school. I'll never forget the jock Seth Powers, who was literally always spinning a basketball on his finger no matter where he was. Ned's debuted to a healthy, but not as stellar, 4.5 rating and 914,000 tweens. And not as stellar really is the perfect way to describe it. It was solid. Not iconic, perhaps even a bit underrated, especially considering that the show's comedy has actually aged pretty well. It didn't have the obnoxious laugh track or creepy Dan Schneider innuendos. The show lasted for 3 seasons at 55 episodes, which was normal for a standard good Nickelodeon show. It was nominated for a couple awards but didn't win anything. Devin, Lindsay, and Daniel never won any Kids' Choice Awards and thus were not seen as actors who desperately needed a spin-off series. After Ned's, Devin and Daniel stayed within the kids' TV realm. Devin secured a TV movie called Shredder Man Rules, as well as a few different voice acting roles, and Daniel got a support role on Disney XD's Zeke and Luther. Meanwhile, Lindsay went on to have the most successful career. After Ned's, she immediately landed roles in back-to-back popular TV series, Aliens in America and 10 Things I Hate About You. The success of those shows led to her securing a series regular in Pretty Little Liars, one of the most popular and culturally iconic teen dramas of the 2010s. Unfortunately for Devin and Daniel, they didn't land any significant roles into their adulthood. They got some tertiary roles in TV shows and bit parts in direct-to-video movies, enough to keep their bills paid, but nothing that would remotely consider them thriving Hollywood actors. Even 15 years later, Devin was exclusively known for his childhood role as Ned, so he decided to lean heavily into nostalgia to grow his social media accounts.
I played this guy. Well, yeah, I'm an adult now. Fans of the show, they've been reaching out. They've been saying, where's Ned for adulthood? They're saying, I need tips for adulthood because I don't know what I'm doing. And I get it. Life is hard.
Devin began a small series on his TikTok giving life tips for adults, playing into his original role of Ned Bigby, who helped those same people survive middle school. His videos scratched that nostalgic itch for tons of old fans, and they hoped the show would be revived for an adult audience, especially considering Raven's Home was bringing back That's So Raven, and iCarly was also rebooted for the adult fan base. Devin announced that he pitched a Ned's Declassified reboot to Nickelodeon executives, but didn't get the response he wanted.
For the last 2 years of my life, bringing the Ned's Declassified Adulthood Survival Guide reboot to life been a huge goal of mine. Imagine Ned, Mose, and Cookie getting out of college, struggling through their 20s, bringing you tips on taxes, online dating, self-care, roommates, budgeting, all of it. I wanted it for you. I wanted it for me, and I thought it would be amazing to make a self-help sitcom for a generation that that could use a friend. Cookie and Mose were on board. The original creator and producer Scott and Michelle Fellows were on board, but we don't own the rights to Ned's Declassified. So we pitched it to Nickelodeon and Awesomeness TV, who do own the rights to it, and they passed on it, and they won't let us take it to sell it somewhere else. So for now, the reboot's dead.
Maybe a TV show was off the table, but they did get the next best thing you could get in the 2020s, a podcast. A production company named Podco invested in a few nostalgia podcasts that weren't able to get full TV reboots. Wizards of Waverly Place, Full House, and Even Stevens were other examples of old shows that were reimagined with podcasts. As a result, the Ned's Declassified Podcast Survival Guide was created, featuring Devin as well as Daniel Curtis Lee and Lindsay Shaw. The concept was to rewatch old episodes, share behind-the-scenes stories, and chat with other co-stars or actors featured on the show. And the first episode was a huge success. It is still the most popular episode they have ever done, but it was questionable how long this show could last. Sure, the original production had over 50 episodes and tons of side characters that they could explore, but it was a 20-year-old B-tier kid show about surviving middle school, which is why just a few episodes into the podcast, the crew shifted from only talking about the past to talking about their current lives or struggles after the show. A common theme woven into the pod was them giving advice to the audience, as a nod to the original show. The cast positioned themselves as guides for adulthood, weighing in on relationships, careers, confidence, and personal growth. The problem was, this wasn't wisdom coming from people who had successfully navigated Hollywood, reinvented themselves, or built something new. And as a result, them giving their perspective on life was not exactly profound.
That makes it hard to really have a human connection, because you want to engage with this idea of what you want versus finding these people and exploring.
Yeah, I'm attracted to who someone is, what their energy is, what their sense of humor is.
I like the surprises of people, you know.
Yeah. Of like different types.
The more they tried to give advice, the more unsure they seemed.
Sometimes you got to give a little. Like, there is your perfect world, which involves only you, but then there's also some positive things about others.
Yeah, because like when you're on your own, you only have to really give what you want to give. But then when you give something that, like, I don't know, it's kind of nice too, where you receive something from another person that you really need. Like, that's the joy I found in it, because and now I think I'd be ready to live alone.
And to be fair, nobody expects people in their early 30s to be extremely wise or have life completely figured out. It just feels a little ironic getting advice from people who are failing to reboot a show about giving advice to people.
Man, I really wish we could make like a Ned's adult reboot, because there's so many topics we could cover in a fun way, and this is one of them. Learning how to live with other people who come from fully other backgrounds of behavior and norms and expectations of how to keep a place and what all of it, it's not always going to be a fit. So I'll say that. Some of the time, it's just not a fit. And then you need to figure out how you're transitioning out of it, or how you are going to make your peace with the fact that you cannot change this person.
Even a year after the podcast had started, the crew simply could not let the idea of a reboot go.
How come there hasn't been a Ned's reboot?
Do you know why?
No, I don't know. I honestly don't.
We don't either. Because Paramount's in shambles, man.
Well,
and Nickelodeon can't get their together.
That I know.
And I don't think they truly appreciate what a no-brainer doing something with the Ned's IP is. Like, I don't think they understand how emotional it is for the fan base and how ready the fan base is.
Critics started looking at them as three washed-up child actors reminiscing about their peak. They are so desperate for work, it's embarrassing. I love the way that they act like they're doing it for the fans when it's obviously so self-serving. And this is where the podcast started to fall off the rails a little bit, because as the three dug deeper into their childhood memories, the more the audience wished they would have kept that to themselves. Like when Lindsay discussed her and Devin's intimate history together.
Like, once we started dating, we would just
take off and I would go.
We would go
we
make
just
out.
go off at lunch and make out.
Oh, right.
How long were these makeout sessions?
I mean, they were lunch.
All of lunch.
Really?
Yeah. We would go make, and then they'd come and they'd have to redo our
you're like,
makeup. Just dry humping.
How far were you guys really going? Oh, dry humping? What base is that? Did you guys go all the way? Did you knock it out of the park at any point?
No comment.
No comment? No comment? I kind of want to know.
Now, at first, the comment section was loving this, which is likely why they kept talking about these private experiences.
Dude, I ran through every Ned's cast member before I landed on Devin.
Damn.
Remember that?
Wait.
I remember like telling Theo that I liked him, and we like held hands at the movies.
He's so mysterious.
And Rob. And then Dev was like, hey, and I was like, You guys. Hey.
You definitely had your pick for
Yeah.
a minute there.
Yeah.
Between Rob, Theo, and me. Any others?
No, Kyle scared me.
Really?
Because he had used that big dong on, he had already lost his virginity.
But then they would take it too far when Lindsay brought up a time where her and Devin went past first base.
What are you gonna ask on this public podcast, Lindsay?
Do you remember that?
The first what? Which one, Lindsay?
The first one, Devin.
First what?
BJ.
I actually do. You really want to talk about this on the pod?
I just wanted to say that I felt like a failure from that point because
He didn't finish.
I know. Yep.
No.
You didn't. You didn't. After a moment, he just said, "Thanks, okay," and you got up and you went to the bathroom and you did your thing.
And again, if you were to just look at the comment section, you'd think this is exactly what the audience wanted. But the silent majority said otherwise. Stories like these are already extremely discomforting, as most people would prefer not to hear about intimate moments between middle schoolers. But it's even worse when you consider how closely tied it is to Ned's Declassified. People have fond memories of the show from their childhoods, and to recontextualize the program's creation with stories like these only ruin it for many fans. And as a result, their viewership numbers started falling from well over 100k per episode to consistently below 100k. Lindsay in particular has a history of getting in trouble with her off-the-cuff comments. Notably, she found herself being accused of racism after she posted this video criticizing a TikTok dance.
Are we okay? What the f is this?
And you won't believe how little of a controversy blew up in her face. Some felt her negative reaction towards the dance was a byproduct of racial insensitivity, even though it's more likely that she is just an out-of-touch millennial acting like dancing for the internet is weird. Then again, Lindsay had previously made positive comments about the trend after Devin posted his own video doing the dance.
The issue is how quick people are to discredit black content creators. Lindsay applauds her white co-star when he does the dance. What the f is this? But can't give the respect and the credit to the guys who made it.
Lindsay quickly deleted her comment as well as the original video before uploading a tear-filled response addressing the allegations.
I just have to say right now that the hate in my inbox is not okay. I did not mean anything in any kind of way. I am learning every day, as I think everybody is. And this kind of hate just needs to evaporate from the planet, no matter who it's directed towards. Crocodile tears? No, dude. Like, this is like my soul out there. If you know anything about what I stand for or what I believe in, you know that it's not this. I am sorry you were offended.
Some people interpret her saying, "I'm sorry that you were offended," as a backhanded apology, and her crying only made herself seem like the victim rather than her having a level-headed response clarifying the misunderstanding. But this makes sense considering Lindsay has said on the podcast that she enjoys being the damsel in distress, recounting a time when she faked a shoulder injury for months to receive special attention.
This thing happened in my shoulder where, like, I popped the socket out, but it didn't hurt. But I made them take me to the doctor, and I wore an arm sling for the next 2 months and did all of my homework with my left hand because I loved that damsel in distress feeling. And so there was nothing wrong with my elbow. And with my shoulder. I can still pop it out to this day. It's just like a double jointed thing.
After she filmed herself crying for the internet, she announced her indefinite departure from social media while pleading for people to be more compassionate and understanding. There is no doubt that this controversy wasn't that big, something that they could have easily ignored or addressed very quickly and briefly, but them attempting to make it bigger than it was and address it over and over again just made it worse.
If you know Lindsay personally, you know she's a hater on all sorts of things. Black, white, brown, popular, unpopular, and can be a reactionary and defensive person. But she's also got a good heart and is dealing with personal issues and challenges that none of you know anything about. So now we have a perceived racial bias and perceived microaggression. That's possibly a good opportunity for education of some ignorance that's being turned into hate and telling her to herself in her DMs.
It was becoming more clear that these three didn't exactly know how to conduct themselves online, something that would only continue to get them in trouble, like when they made light of other child stars' stories of being abused on Nickelodeon sets. The Quiet on Set documentary was a 5-part series that details the dark, behind-the-scenes world of children's television from the late 1990s to the early 2000s, specifically during Dan Schneider's tenure as a producer and showrunner on Nickelodeon. Multiple alleged victims victims were featured on the show that claimed that they were asked to massage Dan, asked to have phone sex, were sodomized by him, among other horrific behavior. But the most notable story was the fact that Drake Bell had been molested by his dialogue coach, Brian Peck. Most people were mortified at the revelation that one of the most prominent faces of their childhood was abused during the peak of his childhood career. However, the Ned's Declassified cast made the bizarre choice to mock the situation.
Daniel, we told you never to speak about that. Get back in your hole, Daniel, and give me your holes. Sorry, we shouldn't joke about this. We really shouldn't.
This is awful. Why are we doing this?
Because this is about us. Listen, our set was not like that. And no, it's f***ing awful. The Drake Bell is that's crazy to hear. That is, man. And that never came out, which is really wild.
Gross behavior. He wouldn't be joking about it if it was himself or his children who had been sexually abused. Damn, that reboot ain't happening now. Even Drake Bell responded to the joke, saying, "Ned's declassless. This is wild. Laugh it up, guys. Laugh it up. Give me your holes? Really?" Devin took to Twitter to apologize for his insensitivity. "I was being an idiot today. No way around it. I feel horrible that my dumbass was even speaking about this without seeing it. I watched Quiet on set tonight and am horrified by the gravity of what Drake and others shared. Truly heartbroken about what my fellow actors went through. I can't believe they weren't protected. I'm sorry for compounding any hurt." The three tried to give more context to the situation on an episode of their podcast where they claim that this was all a misunderstanding.
We hadn't seen the doc. Everyone was asking us for our opinions on. Now having seen the documentary, it's so disturbing.
And we had no clue of the magnitude of what they were discussing.
If I had just watched especially that third episode and then watched us joking like that,
you would be upset.
I would be like, are they sociopaths?
Get it clear, you guys were not speaking on that.
I know what the joke sounds like, but I was talking to Daniel.
Now sure, they may not have seen the documentary before they made the joke on the live stream, but they clearly knew enough about it because he did say, "Oh yeah, what happened to Drake was terrible," so they at least knew something. And even though they never worked with Dan Schneider because he was not the producer of Ned's Declassified, they had heard the rumors about him over the years. So it's a little tough to believe that the joke that Devin made on the TikTok live was just merely a coincidence and had nothing to do with Drake Bell, because the comments were asking about Drake, and Devin made a joke towards Daniel, although technically about a different situation, but still acting as this authoritative figure who would sodomize their employee if the job wasn't done, which effectively is what the entire documentary was accusing Dan Schneider of doing for his whole career. But above all else, once again, we see that these three don't understand how to conduct themselves online. Sure, we all laugh at messed up stuff, but usually in private with close friends. Offline, not on a live stream. In 2 years, the three former child actors had completely destroyed their reputation, and the idea of a reboot had fully soured in the eyes of fans. Not because of one poorly executed joke, but because fans were hoping to relive the joy of their youth through the podcast, only to find out the people behind their favorite characters aren't that great. They signed up for Ned, Cookie, and Mose, but instead they got three out-of-touch millennials who couldn't let go of the past, and more specifically, didn't know when to stop talking. But this is just the reality of life. The characters we portrayed as heroes to our childhoods are more often than not regular and unimpressive people. The podcast continued while viewers...
RuneScape. Pet Hunter stream. Give me like 2 minutes, I'm just gonna hop in the shower quick.